The T-92 was this very cool thing that was left there. 76mm gun, a semi-automatic loading system. It actually had a few problems, but it was a very, very good idea. There was one big problem with the T-92 light, and that was called the PT-76. The PT-76, of course, being a Soviet-produced reconnaissance vehicle. And the PT-76 could do something that the T-92 could not. That thing being float. The T-92 was designed to be as small, compact, and tiny as possible. PT-76, well, no, that was not. PT-76, if you ever see one, is huge. It is a boat. It is absolutely empty inside, just to make all that buoyancy. But the US Congress hears about this new development that the Soviets have a tank that floats. And immediately Congress asks the Army, hey, this new vehicle that you've just been working on, that you spent millions and millions of dollars, does it float? And the Army goes, no. Congress says, why doesn't it float? Well, we didn't need it to float, but the Russians have something that floats. Well, yeah, good for the Russians. Nope, we're spending all this money, says Congress. We want our new light tank to float. Well, you can't take a T-92 and make it float. It doesn't work that way. Even if you put big flotation screens, it just gets a little bit inconvenient. So back to the drawing board they went in 1959 for new concepts for an armored reconnaissance, armored assault vehicle, armored reconnaissance, something like that, AAV. And it takes about 5 years for the prototypes to turn into production vehicles. So there are two extant prototypes. The one that's in World of Tanks right now is the XM551. And if you compare it to the Sheridan that you're about to look at now in a few minutes, you see that your prototype vehicle in World of Tanks, it's a lot more square, it's a lot more boxy, it's made of a much lighter material than the castings of the actual Sheridan. There were two of them left. One's in Fort Lee, Virginia. One is in Fort Benning, Georgia. There may be others, but those are the two I know of. And one of the big questions they had was, well, if we're going to have this thing, what gun will we put on it? And there were certainly several trials. There was a 76mm that was used in the T-92 light. They even did the 105mm, the British 105. They trialed that. They trialed a 90mm. They just weren't sure if this combined gun launcher with the Shillelagh missile system was going to work. There was an idea maybe we should fire tow missiles out of the thing. But that would require completely reconfiguring the tow missile because of the wired guidance. The Shillelagh works off a different system. And after a few trials, the first prototypes were built just without the missile system. Then eventually they got some that had the missile system and said, fantastic, let's build this thing. And they go ahead and they built like 1,400 of these Sheridans, which unfortunately they don't really work all that well. So they first, of course, enter service with the airborne units, and then Vietnam kicks off, and they start building them for Vietnam. But in Vietnam, you don't need the missile system. It's just not worth it. So they started building these Sheridans without the fire control system for the missiles. So about 300 or so of these Sheridans were built without the missile guidance system and just sent to Vietnam. There they replaced, amongst other things, the M56 Scorpion, which also is, I think, a tier 8, the one with the 90mm gun. And they were received questionably because they were lightweight. They weren't designed as frontline up-close combat vehicles. They were designed for reconnaissance and long-distance work as much as possible. However, something happened, which was the first battle, that they used a flechette round, basically a beehive round. And a 152mm shotgun is basically what this thing is, except it fires darts, instead of instead of round ball. And they basically stapled Viet Cong to trees. And all of a sudden, the Sheridan became a lot more appreciated by the folks of Vietnam. They would see service in Germany as well as reconnaissance vehicles up in the Fulda Gap. The 11th Cav had them there, for example. But by the mid-1980s, it was realized that they really weren't a very good armored vehicle for frontline work, and they started being relegated to specialty roles. By the time the 1991 war came around, really the only Sheridans that were left in service were the ones in the 82nd Airborne, and they got, as exactly they were designed, they got flown to Saudi Arabia, and they were the only tanks, quote unquote, that the US Army had for the 82nd Airborne as they were performing their speed bump role in Saudi Arabia. Of the 130,000 Shillelagh missiles that were built, or however many it was, only 13 of them were ever fired in combat. That was in 1991, and they were mainly fired at bunkers. But they worked. They worked. All the other Sheridans were used as OSVs, Op Force Surrogate Vehicles. So they were sent down to Fort Irwin, mainly in California, in the desert. They were reconfigured. You'd stick big, long, fake gun tubes on the end, and you make them look like T-80s, or you put a long, narrow gun tube on the end, and you make it look like a BMP or something. And so most of the Sheridans spent their lives driving around pretending to be Soviet vehicles. And considering how many of them were made, if you look at the ones that are still around, it's maybe a dozen of the things are still in driving condition. None of them have good track, and you'll see that on the one that you have here in Ontario as well, is that the track pads have been worn all the way down to the steel. It's just, you can't find replacement trackpad anymore. It's impossible. Although the Ontario guys think that they have found one off of a monument, they're going to go raid a monument vehicle and steal the track off that. But all the other monuments have been already raided. So, well done to them for finding it. So that's basically the service life of the Sheridan. Eventually, the OSV Sheridan was replaced in about 2000, 2002 by M113 based OSVs. So now all the vehicles pretending to be T-80s and BMPs are actually M113s with the new turrets stuck up top. The turrets themselves are actually based off of the Bradley. So if you look inside the OSV that they're using now, it's all Bradley controls, so at least there's a little bit of practice still being given to the OPFOR. But that is the short and dirty version of the Sheridan. Now, in order to get the actual details, happily enough, Sophie Line is sitting there with an actual trained Sheridan crewman. So it's probably just as easy to hand off to him. Do you still have a camera up there that you're going to be repeating on this TV? Yeah. I don't know. You are? Okay. So in that case, I think it's probably best if we just hand off now to John and Sophie to give you the detailed tour of Sheridan as best as you can from the outside.
We can do that. We're going to swap over?
Yep. Come back to me later for Q&A.
Yes. Sorry, Chieftain, I put the microphone up to the speaker on the TV so people could hear you just a little bit better. But as Chieftain said, we're going to shift over to the M551 Sheridan, where Sophie Line and John Panthier are standing by to give you a walk around and tell you a little bit more about the Sheridan. So come on over here. I know you can hear my voice. I don't know if you can see me. But come on over. Come on down. We'll give you all a moment, and thank you so much, Chieftain, for zooming in. Are you going to be hanging around the whole time, Chieftain? Yep, we got a thumbs up from the Chieftain, so that means he's going to be here for some Q&A and listening very closely to what our special host, Sophie Line, and our special guest, John Panthier, have to say. And I won't be on this stage long, but this is where I'll be. This is the M551 Sheridan over here, so if you want to get a better look, there's more room if you want to come around. Yeah, so Sophie and John are going to be walking around the tank, so it is better to kind of get a up-close and personal view and get as close in as you can. They will be mic'd, so you will be able to hear them. And without further ado, Sophie and John, do you want to take it away?
All right, so I'm Sophie Line, and I'm a community contributor for World of Tanks, but my passion is not necessarily video games, it's military history. And what a better place to get a view of Canadian military history than here at Kino Tank Weekend. So I'm proud to present our volunteer and our Sheridan crewman. Yeah, go ahead with the introduction for everyone.
My name's John Panthier. I'm a volunteer. I've been here about 5 years and assigned to this vehicle probably for the last 3 years. It needs a little bit of upkeep in the next few weeks, and that's part of our restoration series that we do.
Awesome. If I have it right, you trained with this vehicle.
Yeah, I trained on Sheridans back in 1982 at Fort Hood. I did about a 10 or 11 week program down there and loved every minute of it. It was just a great vehicle to be introduced to, and I was fortunate to be with 3 other great guys, and we stuck together as a crew, and it was a great time. Learned an awful lot.
Awesome. So if you learned a lot, now it's their turn to learn a lot.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about this vehicle, and we'll have a little bit of an overview as you learned it then.
Okay. So the M55 Sheridan, there's 2 models. There's one that was a 67 model. This is a 68 model. A couple reasons you can tell is because of the barrel. It's a little different style. It's air droppable. It is amphibious. So to make it amphibious, you flip this screen up. It has side skirts that come up. It goes about 4 or 5 knots per hour, but to be honest, I'm not putting it in the water. It is about 17 to 20 tons if it's loaded. So it's air droppable from a C-130. You put probably 6 or 7 different parachutes on it, and just float it down at about 1,000 feet with the airborne troops. So it was designed mostly to support airborne troops. Therefore, it had to be amphibious, and it also had to be air droppable.
So if it was amphibious, why didn't you trust taking it in the water?
I just didn't.
Something about it.
It's kind of hard to get out. If this thing starts sinking and you're driving, it's a little hard to get out.
I could understand. So what was the position that you were trained on first?
The first one was gunner.
Okay.
That was my first, but each one of us took a turn every other week to learn whether it's crew commanding, driving, gunner, loader, whatever it was. We all switched every week.
All right. So as a gunner, this has a bit of a distinct main gun,
Right.
just from looking at it. Tell me a little bit about that.
This is 152 millimeters. So to give you an idea, an Abrams only fires a round that's 120.
Only.
So this is probably one of the largest ever barrels you'll ever see in the Army. So it fires, it was designed around with the Shillelagh missile. That missile was a cone-shaped warhead, and it was designed to knock out Russian tanks, mostly in the European theater. When it went to Vietnam, it did not take the Shillelagh with it because the casings were designed to dissolve upon firing, so you wouldn't have anything left. That wasn't a great idea. It had a little bit of problem with leftover embers inside, and the cartridges would swell, and they wouldn't fit in properly. And if they don't fit in properly, you're not firing properly. The other round is a heat round, a high explosive anti-tank. Great weapon. When it would fire, we were told never to fire beyond 10 and 2 o'clock. And that's because the recoil on this was so great it would lift the front 2 wheels right off the ground. So if you fired from a 90-degree angle, you're really rocking everybody inside. The Fichette round, that's like a big shotgun shell, only had 6 grain darts inside, about 1,000 of them. And it would wipe out any vegetation, any soft target, up to about 850 meters by 85. So it was very effective in Vietnam.
It's a very serious weapon. My father served in Vietnam, and the flechette rounds there would nail the Viet Cong to the trees.
Yeah.
That's formidable.
Yep.
That's formidable.
Yep.
So what was your favorite position in this one?
Actually, my favorite was driving.
Why is that?
Well, I just enjoyed it, but the only disadvantage is this being an aluminum hull. Anything, I'll say like an RPG or a landmine, it's not the safest place to be. So what they did is they put a plate on the front to help protect the driver a little bit more, but that added a little bit more weight. I just enjoyed driving it just because I enjoyed it. I mean, the crew commander was fun, but driving that's what everybody wanted to do that.
What's the highest speed you got one of these to go?
They go about 44.
Did you get it to 44?
Yeah, a little over. Yeah. My commander would have been upset with me. My commander would have been upset with me.
Why is that?
Well, because we were told to keep it down, because these were getting old at the time and they didn't want to repair them.
So this was the first tank that you trained on?
Yes. This is first one that I ever trained on. The second one we trained on was the M60. We have a couple of those out there in the arena. To me, it's really special. It's kind of like your first girlfriend, you know, not real pretty, not real popular, but she's still the first, and I love this thing. So there you go.
Can you tell me a little bit about how it felt to be able to crew a Sheridan again for the first time back here at Ontario Regiment Museum?
Yeah, I came in as a volunteer, and I saw it, and I couldn't believe it. It was like, you actually have one of these? Because we're trying to get spare parts for this because it's getting so old. There's only about 12 or 14 left in the world that run. And one of them's at Benning, and we were just talking about it, and we're not sure it actually runs, but I heard it is. But that's how few of these there are left in the world. They're just not around.
So how did you feel? Have you driven it yet?
Actually, I have not driven it yet.
Are you ready to?
Oh, if it kills me, I'm going to get in there.
What made this tank so special for you as the first tank that you trained on specifically?
I think it's just the thrill of learning and being a part of a team. And I mean, in the military, you gravitate to people and you learn to trust. And you know, you trust your gunner to put things on site. You trust the loader to put the shillelagh in the correct way. You trust your crew commander to, put you in the right position, and when it's time to get out after firing, you get the heck out real quick. So it's just the trust factor that you build with people.
How did you feel coming from airborne to experience armor for the first time?
Well, airborne was, that was an experience. That was, again, that was down in Georgia at Fort Benning, and again, to actually then go on to train with a vehicle that was designed to support airborne troops made it even more special. So it kind of gives you that esprit de corps, you want to call it that.
Is there anything else that you want to share about any funny stories that came about when training with a Sheridan?
Yeah, one of the things, and I mentioned it earlier, was how this vehicle will kick really hard. The recoil is very hard. And as a gunner, you learn very quickly that the eyepiece for sighting is hard plastic. And you're supposed to rest your forehead on a pad. But if you get your eye a little bit too far over and too close and you hit the fire, you come out the next day with a nice black eye. So you knew who had made the mistake, but you only did it once. But that was pretty good. I always liked that. It was always the right eye.
So this vehicle has some quirks to it. It's sort of strange, and it's a bit different with regards to, you mentioned its weight, you know, and you tend to fire, right? At the end of the day, did you trust this vehicle as a crewman to do what you had it come to that? Yeah.
If you're trained right and you've got a good group within your crew, I trust it. I mean, you got to be careful. You can't. It's not like driving a main battle tank, but yeah, you trust your group and you trust the people you're with, and I'd go back into it today. I'll take on any of those out there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Let's get some applause for this man. That's right. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. So we'll take you on back down to the desk.
Okay.
And Mr. Chieftain on the other side.
So going from this to the M60, what was the biggest
Thank you. Hello, do I have one of the tickets? You mean for the raffle? Well, you came to the right place, sir. But Chieftain is still standing by. So, Chieftain, do we want to open this up to a little Q&A with you, or do you want to do you want to say something? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? I can't hear the Chieftain at all.
That's because I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, okay, that's why. What do you think? Okay, I'm going to go away from there. I was going to put, well, the speaker on the TV is the best way to get Chieftain heard right now. You're a star. Does anyone have any questions for the Chieftain about the Sheridan? And I know that John P., if you're still around, John P.?
I've got my Sheridan. My people always put the Sheridans, but I've got my own library here, so I'll take an answer from this anyway.
You know what, Chieftain? We also have, is Josh Gulf War veteran? Britt? Josh, are you still in the vicinity? I have his number. I could give him a buzz. I was going to say, Josh is from the Berlin Chieftain crew. And I know that's really for tomorrow, but I wasn't sure if maybe you wanted to chat with him at all while he might be around. Hey, actually, let me give Josh a call. I was just chatting with him because I was hoping to get him to speak with us tomorrow. But that might be a special treat. You might get a little bit of a double header. And then shortly after we hear from the Chieftain and maybe Josh, we'll get our Battle Royale started. I mean, not our Battle Royale, we'll get a raffle for the Battle Royale seat. Anyone have any questions for the Chieftain? Oh, okay, we had a question over here.
So I just asked a question, right? How effective was the heat round used by the M551 Sheridan?
Uh-oh, we got our textbooks, ladies and gentlemen. Well, what was your question about the, we got John P. here too, Chieftain. What was your question again?
How effective the heat round was on the M551 Sheridan?
It was good, okay. John P., come here, come on down. Hey, Chieftain.
Out to about 2,000 meters. Anything after that, no.
You heard that, Chieftain?
Yeah, I did. So I'm trying to get so it's all very well for me to say it's 7 inches at 60 degrees, but you have to put it into context. So I'm trying to get the penetration of the 105 millimeter round fired by the Patton of the same era. Heat round.
John P. doesn't remember that, so Chieftain might be on the right track here
give us an
for the comparison.
Comparison here. Let's see, 105.
Shillelagh, I think, goes
420.
300 meters. Oh, yeah.
400 millimeters. So it's 400 millimeters in inches.
I think the Shillelagh goes.
Well, what's 7 inches in
penetration
millimeters?
is about 300 millimeters.
200.
The Shillelagh is anyway.
Yeah. 7
The
inches.
penetration on the Shillelagh is about 300 meters of steel, or armor, or whatever.
Well, that's interesting. That only shows up as about 200 millimeters. So I don't know why it does that. Okay, tell you what, why don't you throw a second question at me while I continue researching this one with my patent book.
Stand by. All right, anyone else have a question for the Chieftain while he does a little bit more research?
I heard that the M551's ammo tended to cook itself off. What was the cause of this?
What was the cause of what?
Ammo cook-offs.
Ammo cook-offs?
Yeah.
Well, the 551 had semi-combustible ammunition. So John will tell you about all the safety effects, or all the safety requirements for stowage and operation of the 152 millimeter conventional main gun rounds.
As he mentioned, the shells were designed to be combustible.
Can we send over here, John? Sorry, you're
So you had protective coatings and all that you had to get rid of.
Right, there was a neoprene sleeve that was wrapped around the lower 3/4 of the shell, which had to be taken off. And what it did is it kept the moisture away from the combustible shells. So when you put it in, you literally took your fist and drove it in, and the neoprene sleeve would come up. And you were never allowed to take that round out of its casing or out of its storage spot unless it was being used. You never had a spare shot just sitting there on your lap. Because if you've ever been in the inside, it's really small. 4 guys, you want 4 small guys. Like, you guys would be great, okay? I want a crew that size, because I'm not that size anymore.
Alrighty, we have time for one more question. Anyone else have a question for the Chieftain? Okay.
Only one?
Have you ever heard of the Israeli modification to the M4, the Dagam Yud, where they lowered the hull height by literally just removing the hull from above the...
Of the Sherman? Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I put a photo of it up on my Twitter there a little while ago. It was... I have a book on that. That's the advantage. So I have my Israeli Sherman book here. Let me pull up the specs on that. I mean, I think the answer was it was simply too much trouble and effort to change it into a large-scale production. Specialty Sherman.
And Chieftain, John P. has requested that you show the shillelagh.
I'm sorry, say again?
Could you show us the shillelagh missile that you have by your desk?
Oh, there it is. 60 pounds of fun, John P. says.
That's the problem. This is like a 400-page book, so finding the 2 pages on this modified Sherman is a little tricky. Oh, what's this? No, that's... I got an FL turret. Crap, this is going to take me... I don't think I'll have an answer. What specifically do you want to know about this vehicle?
Just really all I could ever find about it was 2 images and nothing else. So I was wondering, like you were saying, why it didn't seem like what problems came with lowering the height like that.
I don't believe there were any problems physically with it. I mean, as the conversion went, yes, it worked exactly to specification. It made the vehicle smaller, it made the vehicle lighter, and you didn't really lose any space inside the turret because it had a slightly lower engine drive shaft. I strongly suspect it's simply because if you think about all the effort that it takes to remove like 6 inches or 12 inches of hull and still keep it as rigid as it needs to be, you can understand just how much time and effort that would take, and so they never decided to put it into actual service. But I'll tell you what I'll do is I will post up on my Facebook page when I find the damn page here. I'll post up what this book says on the matter as to why it didn't enter service.
Alrighty, and we do have another question. I know I said one more, but you raised your hand too, so I don't want you to miss out. This is a twice in a lifetime opportunity because we're doing that again tomorrow. But here you go.
The question I have is, they really liked the Sheridan in Vietnam because of the canister rounds, but really didn't like it because it was under-armored. So why did they not use the M48 did they not have a canister round for the M48 is the question.
They did have a canister round for the M48, but the M48 does have the small problem of it weighing 50-odd ton. Now, that can be a good thing and a bad thing in the jungle in Vietnam. So when there was an armored campaign into Cambodia. People don't know very much about it, but it was actually one of the largest armored operations conducted by the U.S. military in Vietnam, and they did what was called jungle busting at the time, which is exactly what it sounds like. You take your 55-ton vehicle or your 50-ton vehicle and you just knock over any trees that are in the way. You're basically making your own trail. A Sheridan obviously can't do that. On the other hand, if you can imagine some of the terrain in very undeveloped areas of Southeast Asia, you can immediately see that there are some problems with having a 50-odd ton vehicle driving around. It's a little slow, it's a little heavy, and there are some places it simply cannot go. So that's why you use both. You use both the M48 and the flamethrower derivative, the M67. And you use the Sheridan, and it was a mix and match. Some of it was had some advantages in one area and some had advantages in the other area. To answer the question of was there a canister round for the the 90 millimeter, the answer to that is let's see, Q178. Here we go. Projectiles. Yes, there is. The APERS round had 4,100 flechettes. The canister round, M377, had 5,600 flechettes, and the canister round, M336, had 1,280 pellets.
Alrighty. Well, Chieftain, I'm afraid that's about all the time we have for today. But like I said, the Chieftain is going to be back again tomorrow. We're going to do another presentation, and this time it will be focused on the Berlin Chieftain. So I just want to thank you, Chieftain, for zooming in with us and joining us virtually. We know that you wanted to be here IRL. Do you have any final thoughts before I get everyone to clap for you?
No, I don't. Now this question about the Israeli Sherman is annoying the hell out of me. So I've got to fix this now and post it up on Facebook in a few minutes when I find the damn page.
He's got some homework to do. Well, please, let's make some noise for the Chieftain. And then, of course, special thank you to Sophie Line and John Panthier, who helped present on the M551 Sheridan. If you missed that, I'm going to get up here, dead meat. We got CCs all over the place. Chieftain, feel free to stick around, because what we're about to do, before you're all dismissed, is we got a raffle. We got a raffle to go through. So, you guys have your raffle tickets. Raise them high. Let me make sure you got those red tickets in the air, because we all know that Mr. Chris over here kind of messed it up a little bit earlier. So, I want to make sure I only see a single row of raffle tickets. You told me to give you a hard time about it. I'm going to give you a hard time about it until the end of time. So, okay, another thing I need you all to know is when I'm on a microphone shouting at you, it's only right that you shout back, right? Right? Alrighty, and I've only got a few minutes with you before our Project Uplift demo starts to the left. And then, of course, after that is the World of Tanks Battle Royale. And this is the grand prize for our raffle. We have a seat in the M60. You'll be a loader in that tank during the Royale. You will be on the battlefield duking it out against a fellow winner who will have a seat in the loader of the Leopard 1. So we've got 2 spots in the World of Tanks Battle Royale as the main prize for today's raffle. How does that sound? I mean, I thought it sounded way better than that. How does it sound? Make some noise. Come on. If those tanks are going to be shaking the garage all day, I want you guys to shake the tanks. Make some noise. Let's go. All right, Jampy John, I think maybe they need a little inspiration. So I'll give you a little taste of what will come your way. Just one. I know that many of you probably have already grabbed a t-shirt, but for those of you that haven't earned yours yet, I'm willing to give one away for discount. And that because sometimes it's push-ups, so you're welcome, and I'm not going to make you do push-ups yet. But I need you to make a lot of noise, and I need you to get as loud as possible, because Jampy John is going to throw that t-shirt in the direction of the person that's making the most noise. It's a blind test, so let's make some noise if you're having a great time at Aquino. Keep it up. There we go. Alrighty. So, what else is in the raffle? We got some prizes from the Wargaming store. But again, I need a little bit more excitement and maybe get a little closer, because I realize not all of you can see me. I'm off to the side of the Chieftain over here. And I'm not talking about that Chieftain on the TV. He's gone. But I'm talking about this beauty over here, the Berlin Chieftain. Give a round of applause for the Berlin Chieftain. Look at this paint job. The crew and the volunteers at the Ontario Regiment Museum have lovingly doted on this. This is one of 3 Chieftains in their garage. So, yes, well done, and well done to all the volunteers. Do I want to do? No, I'm going to do a prize. Let's do one raffle. So our first prize that we're going to be raffling is going to be a pair of camo socks. Ooh, a pair of socks from the Wargaming store. By the time you leave here, you're going to have a full outfit, I think. So if Jambi John, do the honors. Wait, we need to get 2 more tickets in there? Did Chris? I'm blaming Chris. Okay, I'm blaming Chris for everything. If anything goes wrong at this booth, it's just know it's Chris. Alrighty, so you got those tickets out. Raise them high. Let me see them. All right, see, Mom knows what to do. So the winner of our Wargaming Store camo socks is 240036. 240036. If you are the lucky winner, I want you to yell out, "Let's battle," as loud as possible so I can find you. Okay, we're gonna do it again.